Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Denzel Washington podcast that isn't. It's great to be back. I'm Mike. We got Dookie. We got Dave. We decided, we were having a pre-podcast conversation that might be for the podcast about Denzel post-training day. Dookie had thoughts. Mine was, I was just, because I was starting this with thinking, boy, maybe I should move to Mexico. Everyone who moves to Mexico seems to love Mexico. And then I said, I think I've seen Men on Fire too many times, and Denzel might have ruined Mexico for me. And then Tookie had thoughts.
Well, because don't you feel like ever since Training Day, Denzel has played an iteration of the same dude, just different iterations of the same character?
Yeah, like the older guy who's had enough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's going to be an older guy in every movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But it's the same. I don't know. I feel like the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 minus, is that what that was called? Minus the fact that his character in The Equalizer took out the entire Russian mob in a Home Depot with a staple. Like he killed a dude with a stapler. It's the same film, or at least the same character. It's the same guy.
Here's the thing. I actually disagree.
Okay.
Training Day, he was such an over-the-top character.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way that he actually usually is not. Like Equalizer, he takes down the Russian mob. But one of the things that makes that movie, I enjoy both those movies a little bit, is that he's kind of a quiet badass in both of those movies, where it's like, I'm just working at Home Depot. I'm fine. I'm just helping these guys out. All right, now I have to rip your throat out. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to rip your throat out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, here's my response. And I'm sure there are movies that totally will hold up to the Training Day. I feel like Training Day got so much attention, and then everyone's impression of Denzel, like when you start seeing Jay Farrow and people doing impressions, it was so Training Day that it started to feel like we've been living with Training Day Denzel for a long time. But you look at Equalizer, you look at, I mean, Denzel's always Denzel. There's an element of that to it, but that's true, I think, of most actors who aren't Daniel Day-Lewis, where it's like they just seemingly don't exist outside of their characters. Mm-hmm. I looked at Denzel doing like Fences, and that was very much, he's a poor schlub character in that movie, trying to like find happiness in some desperate dream and looking in different places and failing to find it. And I actually think Denzel is more versatile than he's gotten credit for since Training Day, because Training Day became this thing that sort of stuck to him,
Well, I feel we have to take Fences out of the Denzel equation as a whole.
What?
Because August Wilson forces actors into like a different realm. Whereas every iteration of Training Day Denzel is his comfort zone at this point.
But that's a more reason to admire Denzel, because Denzel was the guy who got that movie made. He directed that movie. Like, that was a passion project for him so long. It's not like he just wound up doing it and then sort of was tricked into doing what August Wilson was looking for. Like, that was Denzel saying, I'm going to play this part. I am maybe the only man in Hollywood who can get that film made. And really crushing it. I really thought Viola Davis got so much of the attention in that, and she was wonderful. But what Denzel did, like, it's so often, especially in roles that are essentially two-handers, which Fences really is, where there's a showy part that gets a lot of attention appropriately, but the other part is the part that is the base. It's the foundation that supports the whole project. And that's what Denzel was doing in that one. I love Denzel in Fences.
Because he was out of his cut, because he pushed himself in that film.
He does.
He pushed himself in that film. And then at other times he reverts to the comfort zone.
Every actor reverts to the comfort zone at some point. Like, when you've got something you could sort of go back to and do because you can crush it every time you do it, at some point you're going to go back to that and be like, all right, I'm going to do one of these. But he does different things too.
But credit to Viola Davis for, when people are like, oh, he can act his face off, she can act her face. I mean, Viola acted through her mucus glands in that film.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Powerful.
Gerard Carmichael might have ruined Viola Davis movies for me.
No.
He had a joke that was so good that I don't totally feel comfortable repeating, but it's really good. And now it's like whenever I see Viola Davis crying, it's all I can think about. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the joke I'm talking about?
I feel like I do, but we'll
Okay.
discuss. It's behind the paywall. Sorry, viewers.
Yeah,
Patreon.com/
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anybody seen the Coen Macbeth? I have not seen it yet.
Sadly, I have not. I feel like such a bad theater major. It's been on my watch list on the Apple TV for so long. Here's something no one should ever say. I'm sorry, Apple. Like, you've got good shit on that app, and it's always like the fifth one I check.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch this, and then I haven't watched it. Yeah, I got to go to them more.
I'm going to try to catch that one this weekend because that's a Shakespeare I think that works well on film, and I loved Denzel with that doing Don John a million years ago in Much Ado.
Yeah,
not Don John, Don Pedro.
Yep.
I think I'm really curious to see how he sort of matured into like this sort of like late leading man Shakespearean actor phase of his life.
There is a chance this Saturday could be the rare Denzel Washington's Macbeth Royal Rumble doubleheader.
Are we allowed to say the M word on this show? Because technically we're all theater people.
None of us are in the theater. That only counts inside the theater.
Fair enough.
By the way, I would like to stress, just in case you don't have captioning on, that Tookie asked whether it was okay to say the M word.
M.
Yeah, because someone's like, I needed to even make sure you finished that sentence. And I was like, she said M, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important. Clarity's important.
It's good to enunciate.
Yeah. Especially since I was like, in this situation, it's totally cool.
Let me explain.
So I really want to stress M. As in Michael.
Correct.
There you go. There you go. All right. It's been 2 weeks. Did you have 2 lovely weeks off?
We've been chilling over here.
Very nice.
Oh, got to see Dave in person.
Yeah. How'd the show go?
To scare poor Dave and his wife and some of their friends.
Oh, we were delighted. We were over the moon. First of all, to be out on a Thursday night, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing comedy in some dilapidated bar basement in downtown Providence, like what more could I want?
The mic failed, but the jokes didn't.
You all were true heroes that night, overcoming technical malfunctions left.
Oh, did you not have a microphone?
It pooped. The cord, for whatever reason, I incurred some damage, so the mic pooped out after the first comic. So the second guy up was like, you know what? F it, acapella.
Oh, that's the worst. I would rather have no lights than no microphone.
No lights.
Yep. I'll tell jokes in the dark, but I want the microphone. The microphone is the barrier between you and the audience.
Yeah.
It was a wild experience. Kind of engaging with comedy in this sort of like and Tookie, I didn't get a chance to tell you this, but like I felt like your materials worked so well in that, given that circumstance, because all of a sudden it felt like I was like, oh, this is akin to a solo show. You know, it's there's obviously setup and punchline and response, but like there's a larger kind of arc to it that I felt that I was like, this is not undone by the lack of a microphone. Whereas like I felt like some other material could be like really, could really suffer.
Don't let a certain person overhear that, because someone's been trying to get me to write a solo show for the better part of 2 years.
Uh-oh.
All based on The Bodyguard.
Let's do this.
Make it happen.
I'm terrified.
Make it happen.
I am terrified. I don't know if the world needs that kind of negativity.
I think they do.
Meh.
There's enough. There's so much positivity in the world right now. I really
tamp that shit down.
Yeah, we need to put a pin in that.
Make it sad. Just talk about Renaissance babies.
Just bleed the air out of the tire a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Speaking of a little deflating, this week's episode of Cheers, Chambers versus Malone. I was excited for this one coming into it. I was like, all right, Chambers Malone, this is such a fun one. And I watched it a couple of times and I was like,
there was a disco ball hidden in the couch cushions. I have no.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah. I thought you laid a disco egg.
I don't think my cloaca can handle the glass.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I watched it. It wasn't terrible, but I did not enjoy it as much as I remembered enjoying it the first time.
I thought you would have.
It's maybe I've just become too sensitive, but like the whole premise of I'm gonna kill her, and then I didn't, even though he didn't actually strike her, but he still chased her for 6 blocks and fantasized about murdering her. And I get it. It's 1987. It's different. It's sitcom-y violence. It's there. But yeah, and especially after so many great episodes this season, and this one I thought I had remembered, and it's one of those episodes I remembered how it made me feel the first time, and it did not make me feel that way this time.
Casual femicide is one of my 80s moments.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like we can almost like just belay that category altogether and agree that is the 80s moment of this week, which is, it was kind of the last decade where that was a comedy trope. This thing that had gone on, Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners, One of These Days, like all this stuff, Ricky spanking Lucy, where, there was some violence and then there was like threats of violence and then whatever this was. And it made me not enjoy it that much. And I gotta be honest, even I didn't think the writing was that sharp this time. There was some good stuff. I thought the acting was good, but it was, I didn't love it. Did not love it. But we can. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna stylistically, we've also this episode hits like sort of peak Ted Danson, like acting without, like he's in a Mamet play in this episode. He's like full realism, and there's something really wonderful about Ted Danson doing that. But when the whole episode is built on the assumption of violence to Diane, and he's playing it so straight and with such there's no over the topness, there's no like hint that like, oh, he might be he's overdoing it for a response. It's a little creepy. I love Ted Danson. I love everything Ted Danson has ever done. I think he's an incredible performer. Like, there's just like a disconnect between his style and the tone of this episode, which this person might be capable of violence. It was unpleasant to watch.
A little bit. And there's always been, and it was in the first episode of this season too, where Diane responds in a way where she's legitimately worried once in a while. It's like, all right, I'm going to throw myself off the boat so you don't throw me off. And I'm going to run away from this man that I intend to marry. It's just weird. Like, because even, I referenced the Honeymooners, and people harken back to that quite a bit of the threats of violence. But one of the things, and that all the actors and the people who made that show always commented on when they referenced that, was what made that funny was that Alice was never afraid of him.
Mm-hmm.
That he would say it, and she would look at him like equal parts. I know you love me too much to do that. And by the way, if for whatever reason you ever considered it, I would beat the living shit out of you. And it always played that way. You never thought he was going to do it, and you never thought she was even the least bit afraid in any of those moments. Yeah, it's just a weird thing here.
It's different.
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, let's follow the order. Dave, what was going on in January of '87 when we learned uncomfortably that Massachusetts did not have the death penalty?
So this premiered on the 8th of January in 87. And I just want to say, like, I want to shout out 1987 for whatever reason. Like, that's the year where, like, I feel like I finally became aware of culture in a larger sense. So this feels like this, as uncomfortable as it is, I'm grateful to be, like, in my cultural sort of awakening wheelhouse. 87. That's like the year where I can really pinpoint a lot of specific stuff.
It is that year where you and I both turned 13, and I think that's a big milestone. Like, obviously back in the 80s we had more independence younger, but at 13 you really started to feel like, hey, I'm me. I'm a person. I do my own shit, and it's different. Yeah, and I've got an opinion on things that is very unique from my parents.
Totally. Yeah, I remember, like, this being the year where I found things that I liked that my parents didn't like, and I had to sort of, like, seek them out myself. Actually, I think today's cultural sort of touchstone from this time is one of those things that, as I discovered sports, I remembered Sunday on the 11th of January of 87, we had what's now known as the Drive. The Cleveland Browns epic meltdown / Denver Broncos epic comeback in the AFC Championship game. This is one of the first football games I remember watching sort of front to back because I was suddenly interested in sports in a way that my family wasn't necessarily. But yeah, just it became sort of one more tent pole in the long line of Cleveland Browns and Cleveland sports lovable loser futility, which the Browns have since torpedoed all that sort of. I feel like the Browns were had the repository of the nation's goodwill for so long because they've lost. There's so many shorthand references to their defeat. You have the Drive, you have Red Right '88. There's so much heartbreak followed by so much just abject terribleness for that franchise that everybody's been rooting for them for years, and then they just torpedoed it with the signing of Deshaun Watson.
And they are a singularly unique franchise in terms of feeling cursed and unlucky, in that the original Browns actually left and went to another city. They became the Baltimore Ravens and have really been one of the model franchises since they've gotten there. They've won a couple of Super Bowls. They're looked on as an extremely well-run team, very well supportive. You look at them and you're going, they're going to figure it out. You've got a lot of faith in them. So for Cleveland Browns fans to be like, we had a team, they were a joke, they left and became terrific, and we stayed the Browns, and whatever team is here, no matter who owns them, no matter who plays on them, is going to be bad. And they're going to do the wrong thing. That's got to be uniquely terrible.
Yeah.
And then to take that awareness, the awareness that everybody expects you to be terrible, and then knowing that on the other side of that coin is the joy that if you ever break out of this funk, everybody's going to be happy. In the same way, I feel like people were genuinely happy when the Cubs won, or people will be genuinely happy if and when the Guardians ever succeed. They have since kind of just set all that aflame. They've denied all of us the chance to be happy for the Browns.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's good because maybe we should just never be happy for a football team ever.
There is a philosophical argument that we all deserve any sadness that we get from football.
Yes, and maybe that's the enduring lesson of the Drive is watching 50,000 people getting kicked in the teeth in a frigid stadium with a lake effect wind roaring over them, knowing that there's no karmic upside to this is perhaps the most important life lesson you can glean from the Drive on January 11th, 1987.
There's something to be said for karmic upside.
Truly.
Indeed.
How do we come to terms with the Cowboys, though? But I guess that's a discussion for another time.
Whenever you're ready for that discussion, I'm here for it.
All right.
All right. Tookie, can you tell us about the cold open, please?
I can. So we enter to the bar. Sam approaches three gentlemen sitting at a table. He goes, all right, fellas, do me a favor. You guys have had a few drinks, so sit down. Let me put some coffee on for you. And one guy says, oh, it's okay, Sam. We're good. Pete hasn't had anything to drink all night. He's our designated driver. And Sam's like, well, I'm glad to hear that. That's a great idea. And Pete goes, well, I'm not the DD. I'm not the designated driver. I thought you were, pointing to the first guy. And the guy's like, no, I'm not the designated driver. What about you, Mark? And Mark goes, I'm with Sam. I think we ought to try it sometime, being a designated driver. Meanwhile, Carla, who's been lurking in the back, kind of skulks over to a guy sitting by himself at the bar. And so she approaches him and says, speaking of driving someone home, I'd be happy to give you a lift. And the guy says, thanks, but all I've had to drink tonight is soda water. And Carla says, oh, well, in that case, Woody, make me a double martini. One of us is getting driven home tonight. Roll credits. It went from this cold open went from a really important message about responsible drinking and having a designated driver to just outright horniness, like Carla in heat. And I don't know how to process it. It's quite a turn of events.
We had two beloved characters get horny this week, and it was neither was comfortable.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Carla a bit more, but yeah, the reference to Norm getting Randy as a jackrabbit later on.
Ugh.
Very weird.
I'm sad. It makes me sad.
Well, just because it's funny because it kind of comes out of nowhere too, of this guy who seemingly never wants to have sex. And yeah, then suddenly, she said it gets me Randy as a jackrabbit. All right. Which is our slight B story. This wisp of a B story here. That's really like an F- story with Norm coming in with a good, what's going on, Mr. Couldn't be better. One day I'd like to be better. And seemingly a little down, and then talking about all the good stuff in his life, but looking for more meaning in the world, and then finding out that the Miss Teeny Bikini pageant is on that night. And hooray. And yeah, them watching the Teeny Bikini pageant is sort of there. And it's weird. I mean, I think, Dave, you were there. We were about to turn 13. Had these shows actually existed, I think we would have found them.
I would have found them. I would have smelled it in the TV guide.
Yeah, it just felt so random that they just made this thing up as though it was on TV. All right, wasn't there anything that was Baywatch equivalent?
As a 13-year-old who was keenly aware of what slot during Star Search the spokesmodel category would be aired, knowing that there would be a bathing suit segment to that slot. There's no way I would have missed the Miss Teeny Bikini program of 1987. None whatsoever.
Pre-internet, we knew where all of this stuff was and what time it was available.
I'm only 2/3 horrified. I understand. I understand, but I reserve my right to side eye.
No, that's fair.
It's the world we lived in. I you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I don't apologize for 13-year-old Mike and his needs.
This is akin to George Wendt using the words Randy as a jackrabbit. It's a peek behind a curtain you don't want to peek behind.
All right. I'm just saying, you got to own it.
But no, I mean, we're open books here. I mean,
yeah. So this was the B story. There was sort of another side story, but it was really a part of the A story, which was Tom, who is just a barfly, and you find out occasionally has studied law, thinking he's going to pass the bar exam, and then actually passing the bar exam to represent Sam in the trial later on. Diane comes into the bar. She is absolutely beaming like a ray of sunshine because she is convinced that today is the day that Sam is going to propose to her. It's not just that he's going to propose, it's going to be today. Carla is frightened by this because she really believes that women have that intuition, that they can sense it. And this is going on. And finally, Sam is having fun with it and then shoos everyone away. It's just him and Diane in the bar and saying he's not ever going to propose to her again. She starts to cry, which makes him propose. She again declines, which is when the murder fantasy begins. He chases her down the street. Next thing we know, Tom, who is now a lawyer, comes in. He's representing Sam in an assault and battery case brought by Diane Chambers. We enter the court. I enjoyed Tom Babson in this, by the way. I thought he was very funny. And
100%.
using his own name as his character's name.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah, it was nice to see that guy get a little bit of some shine, like after all 5 seasons.
Yeah, good for him. I think this is his biggest moment in the series.
And appropriately so.
I don't know if there was any hope for a backdoor pilot coming out of this, but he was the lawyer.
Pretty soon after, he's going to be coaching hockey. Like that's what's happening next.
Yep. And a nice turn by the judge in the courtroom. I enjoyed him very, very much. Tom Troopa,
Yeah.
I think. I had jotted it down earlier.
Yeah, Tom Troop. Yep, he's
Tom
phenomenal. He's like the closest thing this episode has to like a voice of reason.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like an actor who always plays characters who are just about done with it. Just about done.
I believe I hear that not only will a reboot be happening at some point or another, but I think Night Court is somewhere streaming. Possibly on Peacock.
Night Court is streaming and the reboot has started.
It has.
Yes.
Awesome sauce.
And the first episodes, they're not stellar, but they're not bad.
Okay.
I mean, it takes, look, it's a sitcom. You got to establish some shit. There's a lot of exposition. They're figuring out who everybody is. But I have hope for this Night Court reboot.
Yeah.
I watched about 20 minutes of, I think, episode 2.
I want to watch the original.
It's on Amazon Prime. They're Freevee.
Freevee?
Yeah. So Amazon Prime also has, it used to be IMDb TV, and now it's Freevee. So it's
we've got a rare appearance by someone's hand. Oh.
There you go. Your one-man show producer.
Give that guy
He doesn't want
an
to
honorary
pop
Tony.
But he comes bearing matcha lattes.
Oh, he's doing God's work. Yeah, Freevee. So if you go to Amazon Prime, you can look that up and you can watch them all for free with commercials. And it's fun. Yeah, I was watching some of the old Night Courts to get ready for the new Night Court. Very fun.
Yeah, because I think someone did like a retrospective on it on YouTube or something. Someone who was like a fan of the show early on. And I'm curious to watch that so I get an insight of like how the seasons evolved and who these characters were, because I only ever really hear good things about Night Court without ever having seen it. So
it's good stuff. It hits its stride like a lot of shows in season 3.
Okay.
There's some good things. Season 1 is figuring it out. There's good stuff in season 2, and season 3 is like, this is the show.
Okay.
This is what we're doing. And then the final piece was in season 4 when Roz joined. And then you had like 3 really excellent seasons of TV. Started to decline. And then the last season of Night Court was just kind of this notorious mishmash of shit where they're like, we don't know what we're doing, but we know we're done.
Did they, I hear, apparently they didn't get a finale?
No, I don't.
They got a finale.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. They got a final episode. Yeah. And it was actually,
Okay.
It wasn't a great final episode, but it was all about what Harry Stone was going to do. He had these job offers. Dan left to follow Christine when she got elected to Congress. No, there was a finale.
Okay.
It wasn't goodbye, farewell, and amen, but they knew it was over. Yeah. So it was fun.
Okay.
Anyway, Sam proposes to Diane. They're in the courtroom. Diane is wearing a neck brace, holding a cane, tells her story to the judge. My joke of the week was when she's saying, I'll tell you the short version. And then she's telling this long version, and he says, I can't imagine what the long version is. And I love the dad quality to it of, oh my God, you said this is going to be short. I don't need to know anything more about Funko Pop.
My joke of the week occurs in the same scene as yours.
This is the meat of the show.
Yeah. Where the judge goes, please be brief. And Sam is, yeah, that was funny because he knew. Yeah.
Very funny. So Tom proposes after hearing all this and that she still wants to marry Sam what if he just proposes again? And then eventually, and this scene is very funny, and I enjoy that quite a bit. This section of the courtroom scene is very, very funny, and I liked it up until the end. He proposes again. She accepts. Everyone leaves except the two of them. She says she's not going to hold him to it because she knows it was under duress. And he has a very nice Ted Danson moment of, wait a minute, I proposed, you said yes. They can stop me from killing you, but they can't stop me from marrying you. And he does the finger wiggle, and she comes over and they hug, and now they're engaged and in love. And that moment, I do admit, I still enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that was Chambers versus Malone. Yeah. So Dave, Tookie and I both got our jokes of the week out of there. Do you want to get your joke of the weekend?
Yeah, I was going to give mine to Tom Babson. Just when the judge finally orders, when he basically dismisses the bail and releases Sam on his own recognizant. He's the judge is so ordered, and Tom Benson just responds with "All right." Like I loved every time novice lawyer had an outburst. I thought that was really funny. I thought it was nice to finally give that guy a chance to kind of stretch a little bit. I liked his energy. I thought I thought it was telling that the funniest people in this episode were the judge and the lawyer.
It would have been the time that all of our jokes of the week went to the guest stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big, big week. So yeah, as we go through it again in the courtroom, I enjoyed this episode. I didn't enjoy it until the courtroom. So the courtroom really does a lot of work for saving this episode and making it work. And yeah, it was just this stark reminder of, man, volatile relationships were different in the 80s. It just played differently.
Ooh, what a time.
And you needed an actor as insanely likable as Ted Danson to somehow get away with it, I think.
Even the lack of a Woody presence in this episode, that level of kind of innocence and sweetness and lack of guile. Even though he obviously wouldn't be involved in the Sam Diane violence, having that energy be a part of the episode would have helped. And Woody's kind of cut out of this episode.
It's true, not a big part of this episode.
And Woody and Frasier, that's my biggest critique so far. They get billing, and yet they have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Woody and Frasier take a little bit of a backseat. I mean, Frasier, they're introducing him as a regular and figure out exactly what he's going to be. And yeah, Woody, it almost seems takes a little backseat this season to the Sam and Diane romance.
Yeah.
And he gets featured more prominently once Diane leaves.
Hmm.
Yeah, having him be more of a part of that even that B story, I feel would have helped kind of mitigate some of the creepiness of the episode. But even the camera lingers on him periodically, and he doesn't have anything to do. It was a weird episode, just from top to bottom. I didn't think it was I didn't like the directing of it particularly. This is one of the first times I was everything's kind of making me uncomfortable, and it's not just the material. It's just the way it's presented as well is kind of just a little off-putting. Even
Cliff somehow being the Carla to Tom's Cliff, where suddenly instead of being picked on, he's the one bullying Tom and making fun of him in the way that Carla usually makes fun of Cliff. It's very weird.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, I was why do I kind of dislike Cliff a little more than usual this episode?
He was mean. He was really shitty this week. And it's funny. There's almost this feeling of you expected it to be...
Good Lord.
who doesn't know those characters that well. And it was a David Angel episode.
Was it?
Yeah, directed by Jim Burrows. These were not pinch hitters. These were the regulars. As you would expect from the fact that it's an important episode and they would have the regulars doing it. But yeah.
Oh, God. Now I'm pissed. Damn it, Jim.
A little bit. All right. So we did our jokes of the week, our 80s thing. Tookie.
Oh, no, I have 80s moments.
Would you like to include more 80s moments, Tookie?
I'll wait. No,
if you've got them in your heart, let them out. I don't want
Okay. So the concept of a designated driver being kind of new-ish like a new idea, feels very of that time-ish when the PSAs against drunk driving were just starting to roll out.
That was very early 80s.
Yeah. Calling a cab on a landline.
Well, that to be fair, that endured through like 2004-5. I mean, that was still how you got the cab. And there was no Uber until after 2010.
Right. Calling in for bar exam results. Yeah. A reference to, like, when referencing war generals, referencing Custer's last stand. That feels like a not something that we actively talked about when I was learning about American history and grade school history in general. When you reference that,
to reference the losses anymore.
Yeah, definitely the casual femicide. I'll save that for last. The electric chair being the method of execution that people go to when talking about the death penalty. So not so much an 80s moment in and of itself, but is it a meme to show up to court with the neck brace and the fold-away cane? In a sitcom.
I feel like the neck brace is very much the con man's representation of getting hurt.
Right.
Like, see the big neck brace, you know someone's not actually hurt.
Right. So that could be a meme in that sense, a sitcom meme.
I could agree with that.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. How white was this week's episode, Tookie?
Oh boy. They had me in the first half. They did. They were doing well. In the cold open, we had a black woman who was sitting under the Melville stairs, a black woman who exited the bar, another black woman sitting behind Woody. Scene 1, a black man on the phone in the hall, a black woman who I believe emerged from the bathroom, a black couple at the bar, man and woman, a black woman who was sitting next to Al, Norm's dad, and then a black man sitting in the upper booth. Scene 2, all repeat extras, but it was just 2 people, which are the black woman who was on the phone on the bar bench next to Al, but now she's on the phone, and a black man at the bar. And scene 3, I believe, yes, it was a black man sitting behind Frazier and a black woman behind Diane. And scene 4, 2 black male bailiffs. So I didn't notice anyone who was Asian or possibly Latino or just any other ethnicities, specifically black extras this week, which is total to 10. So lower than last week. Yeah.
I have an is it a meme question.
Let's do it.
Like bailiffs on television are almost always black. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, I noticed that too.
Yeah. It's funny because, Night Court feels like the exception. But even then, we got Roz, and now the bailiff is black on the new Night Court. And, it just feels like, oh, all right, there you go.
I don't know. It's a weird stereotype. Imposing black person serves as bailiff.
Yeah, I feel like Bull and Rusty from People's Court were our last Hollywood white bailiffs.
I like the thinking of Rusty from People's Court as Hollywood.
Baby. That was Hollywood. Those guys made money. I bet Rusty had an agent. You got an agent, you're Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's also a meme. Yeah. 6 foot something black man, automatically bailiff.
Bailiff.
Typecast, meme. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Bailiff, security guard, bouncer. That's always going to go to that person, that actor.
Yep. All right. So we've hit an important transition point in Cheers as we have rounded 2nd and we're heading towards 3rd. Yeah, they're together. They are engaged. And the rest of this season is about the upcoming nuptials that will ultimately never come to pass. So this is a milestone in the season.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can handle it.
We're just a tiny bit more than halfway there. And then start making our decisions about Norm the Cheers podcast.
Oh my God.
Gonna be heavy.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take a retreat, I think.
We're gonna figure it out. Okay, so on a non-Cheers note, I just realized yesterday that apparently I was a part of history. My son and I were two of the last people to go on Splash Mountain.
Oh,
Oh,
congratulations.
snap.
I knew they were going to be rebranding it. I
Yeah.
didn't know when they were going to be doing it. Turns out it was yesterday. Yeah, and we literally went on it last Thursday. Went on Splash.
Wow.
Yep. Did it, and they closed it down. Yeah, like Sunday night was the last night, I believe, for Splash Mountain.
Wow. Holy crap. See, not only, one of my main issues with that ride is the fact that it's just another way that the big mouse upstairs has erased the legacy of James Baskett, the actor who portrayed Uncle Remus, and who was awarded. He didn't like win from a nomination, but he was awarded an Oscar and like was one of the first Black recipients of an Oscar. And paved the way. He and Hattie McDaniel like paving the way for so many Black people in cinema, and not even like it's bad enough that they themed the ride after Song of the South in the first place, and Song of the South is problematic in its own right, just because not only was the film, it's not even a good movie. It's not even a good.
Have you seen it all?
I've managed to come across enough bits and pieces.
Okay.
And for whatever bizarre reason, I had like the Brer Rabbit stories on vinyl records as a kid, which is like, wow, who gave this to me? Which side of the family thought this was a good idea? But that's neither here nor there. So the source material for Song of the South is also deeply problematic because it was a white dude going around collecting Black stories and just repackaging and telling them. The movie was mid as hell, and Disney doesn't want to even acknowledge its existence. And my last remaining remnant, other than the weird random vinyl records of just the Brer Rabbit stories and not even the movie itself, is a VHS of Disney sing-alongs where they included Zippity Doo-Dah. And that's about it. But like in every other case, they have just erased James Baskett. So it's like, if you're going to go and theme Splash Mountain after this like turd of a film, put some respect on James Baskett's name. Put some respect on Uncle Remus's name. So like to have erased him from it altogether, I thought was cowardly.
Well, it's so confusing to figure out what to do with Song of the South.
Yeah.
Because even when it was made, the NAACP was like, hey.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even like it's not even one of those where at the time everyone was going, we love this. And then later on people were going, I don't know if we should have loved this.
Right.
Yeah, there were people going, I don't know about this. But James Baskett and his widow, spoke incredibly fondly of that film and working with Walt Disney for until both of them passed. So they were by all accounts, extremely proud of that film and wanted it to endure. And yeah, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And like argument of there were a lot of Black actors at the time who were saying, it was huge. Like it was a Black man as the star of a Disney movie. That was a big thing. That was a really good thing that excited a lot of people. And yeah, it's hard to know what to do when the people in something problematic don't want to call it problematic. Like 16 Candles got referenced recently.
Oh. And
interestingly, the Long Duck Dong character is remembered extremely problematically from that movie. But I was reading, I fell down the rabbit hole and was reading an interview that was like 2016 with Geddy Watanabe, who played Long Duck Dong. And he has extremely fond memories and does not apologize for that. He loved John Hughes. He thought it was hysterical. He thought everybody in that movie was meant to be a stereotypical representation of a person. and he thought it was funny, and he does not apologize for that or any of the choices he's made. And in my place, I don't know what to do when that is the feeling there of, I respect that people are vexed by this, and I respect that some people are like, you're overthinking this. I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think too, like, do what you will with the ride aside. I think they should have at least a plaque of James Baskett somewhere, or replace the Cosby statue with a statue of him.
Something. Is there a statue?
They removed it, but it was on Main Street, just kind of sitting, being a dad, in front of some shops. And I don't know if I love the fact that they're rebranding it with Princess and the Frog, because she was a frog for 2/3 of the movie. She wasn't even a person. So it's like, this is the lesser of two problematic evils in terms of Disney's history of depicting Black folks. Because she didn't even get to be a princess for all but 2 minutes of the film.
I didn't even realize Splash Mountain was sort of themed from Song of the South. I didn't know it had any connection to it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's because it's basically just the Burr Rabbit stuff, and all the animal characters are in there, and it doesn't say Song of the South, and it's been so long since any of us have seen that movie. I might have never seen it. I've seen I heard the albums, and I did that, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen that movie beginning to end. And so you just know you just go through it and you see animal characters. So yeah, like which I think was their, attempt to, keep it from being controversial. It's just like, it's rabbits and bears, and how can you be upset about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Sneaky.
Yeah, it seems like there's clearly a need for some sort of like reminder about James Baskett, like to sort of just to tie into it and like let people like wrestle with the things they need to wrestle with. But like, yeah, that performer needs to be. You can't erase him. Like that's absolutely, that's the wrong choice.
Yeah, there should be a way to honor the performer while also saying we don't feel great, as you must do with Hattie McDaniel and Butterfly McQueen with Gone with the Wind, which and Gone with the Wind in general, which is an incredibly technically well-made and well-acted movie that has horrific messages from beginning to end. It's, you could put it in its context, because it was extremely impressive that a Black woman finally won an Academy Award. It's a bummer that that's what she won for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
had to sit in a whole segregated section to even go receive her award in the first place.
Yeah.
Great job, America. And this is why they're trying to ban CRT in schools, even though CRT itself is for law students.
Yeah. Oh, Florida.
Yeah.
America's dong is not one of the high points.
Yeah, it's hard. It's, you know what? All right, so now we're getting very off of cheers. But it is a reminder that once voter suppression is allowed to take place in gerrymandering, it's really hard to overcome. Mm-hmm. It's so goddamn tough.
Yeah.
I mean, we were, 5 years ago, that governor's race was down to the wire between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gilliam, a Black man. And it was a razor's edge decision. And now it's like, now Florida is basically Wyoming.
Yeah.
5 years.
Wow.
And it's not all the people have just suddenly changed their feelings and opinions. It's they gerrymandered the shit out of that state. That used to be a fairly liberal state.
Was it? Because I know they always kind of poo-pooed the taxes down there.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody likes taxes.
Yeah.
Florida also, and they had a case of, look, we're tourism, we've got a lot of industries that pay taxes. So that was the reason. And that made a lot of sense. And they needed people to want to move to Florida. So there was no income tax. But, one of the things during the Florida recount of 2000, one of the reasons that they pushed so hard to get it into federal court, even though they were the party of states' rights, was that their Supreme Court was very liberal.
Mm.
They had been appointed by, then elected by liberal Democrats. And so they said, we're not going to win in state court. We've got to get to the feds. We have to get to the Supreme Court, which has at that time had a slight liberal lean or conservative lean.
My God, they did it.
Yeah. Florida's a fascinating state.
Happy Lunar New Year of the rabbit or cat.
Kung Hai Fa Choi.
Yeah. I feel like at least that was a good reason why the family was down there.
Oh, wait, we were in California. We were not in Florida.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, poop. Okay.
Yeah, we were in LA.
Oh. Why did I think Florida for some odd reason?
There's a Disney there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
No, but we went to LA. That is where we like to go. I'm a huge fan of Disneyland. I think Disneyland, California Adventure, amazing parks. Disney World, I get why most people prefer it. I think Disneyland is perfect. Just a little more manageable. You're not stuck and trapped just in that resort. You can go other places. You can see parts of LA. You can go to Santa Monica. You can go to different places. I love Disneyland. That is my favorite place to go. The rides are all great, but yeah, like they don't test your structural integrity. I like that. There's always Pirates of the Caribbean to just take a break for a little while. So good.
Now, has that been depth themed?
That is depth themed.
Ooh.
That has been rebranded quite a bit.
That's gonna be a fascinating experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're no longer auctioning off winches. Now it's like they're selling things, and pirates aren't lustily chasing the women, and yeah, it's improved. And there's not a ton of Depp anymore.
Okay.
He's there, but it's it's Jack Sparrow. And what do you do? And I think the fact that the case ended the way that it did makes them feel like, all right, we can leave Depp in there. We're okay. So yeah, but that got rebranded. That was one of the rides that, a lot of people pushed back on and said, hey, we need to tone it down. And it's better now.
Yeah, and tone it down they did for the better. Yeah.
And they're in the midst of fixing Jungle Cruise.
Oh.
That was legit problematic.
Oh yeah.
Was it?
That would be, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I got to ride that. I think my family shielded me from
Look up Jungle Cruise on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe not, but if you want to know.
Okay, well, a live reaction to me watching Jungle Cruise will be behind the paywall, patreon.com/Norm the Cheers podcast.
All right, good times. Do we have anything to plug this week?
Nothing on this side.
O'Brien's Pub in Alston on Wednesday.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, Bill's Bar on Friday.
Bill's Bar on Friday. Always a fun place to catch a show. Very fun comedy spot. All right. Until next week when we find more problematic things, I'm Mike. That's Tookie. That's Dave. We're going to miss you very much. And splash away. Bye.